Welcome to the Anika Apple Podcast. I'm Anika Apple, trusted advisor, author, and spiritual strategist. And I prepare leaders for a higher purpose, helping them to reconnect to their truth within so that they can live a remarkable life. Here, leadership is sacred, community is essential, and healing is a collective act of faith. Together, we align with our divine authority to lead boldly and to live life to the full. Welcome. This is where transformation begins. I'm so excited to have you here with me for the November episode of the Divine Guidance. This month is all about renewal. And so I'm looking forward to delivering what God has presented for us today to know about this time that we are in. Before I get started, I welcome to any of you who are joining the podcast for the first time. I'm glad to have you here. One of the things that I always remind people is that anytime you are listening to a prophetic message, it's really important for you to do two things. One, you want to take the information that you receive through the message back to God, to the divine, your higher self, however it is that you understand that which is greater than you, and connect about the message. So understand if the message is for you, and then how to now use the information in that message for your specific situation in life. It is really easy to receive a collective word and misinterpret it because you're not looking specifically at your circumstances. And so it's really important for you to be asking the question, first, is this for me? And then now that I know that it is, what do I do with it? So we've got a lot to talk about today. And before I get into the information for the podcast, I do want to just share with all of you that I am so excited because in a week, my first book will be out in the world. It is available for pre-sale right now at healingisrequired.com. And we have some great exclusive packages there that you can only get from our website. And of course, you can purchase it from Amazon.com as well. And it launches next week on Tuesday. Could not be more excited about the work that is in this book. It is a divinely given text that is all about understanding what healing is, why it matters, and then how we get about doing the work. So there is a lot of information in there about how to craft your healing journey and some really unique perspectives that will help you to get out of your old patterns and get into living the life that God designed for you. So really excited for that opportunity to reach your hands and for you to have the epiphanies that I know you will as you go through it. I would just say personally for me that I got the question a lot during this journey of, did you heal and then write the book, or did you heal during the book, or what have you? And honestly, all of the above. The healing journey is something that started before I wrote the book. And as I wrote the book, there were moments where I had to pause because I was going so deep into different healing experiences. And then after I finished the book, there was more. Some of that actually is in the final version of the book. And some of those things will be stories to tell for months and years to come. So I know that my experience is not different from what you will have as you go through the book as well, that you will have plenty of opportunities to see yourself in relation to what's happening in the world and to make some really important choices about who you want to be. Because quite honestly, we need you. We need you doing your healing work so that we can shift the trajectory of the world. There's no use in us talking about all the things that are happening around us, the shenanigans, the things that we, get frustrated about or are disappointed in that feel like they're at the hands of others, and then not look at the role that we play ourselves. Complacency is acceptance. And so it's important for us to recognize that. All right, so let's get into the Divine Guidance episode for the month of November. So first and foremost, the other day, God gave me the message that this is a month of renewal. And that is so important for us to recognize. So first and foremost, for those who are really in a place where you know you have been walking your divine path, where you know you've been in alignment. I know for many of you, this marks a time where you're like, I'm doing my best, God, to not look at what's happening around me, to not look at what's happening in my life because it's not matching up in exactly the way that I expected it to. And that is because it is a time of renewal. If you look back, even if you pause right after this broadcast and you think about the different things that have been happening in your life, you can see a pattern of you being detached from the things that you have been holding onto so tightly. It has been important for you to create new and healthy connections to the things that you had attachments to. So the work that you have been going through, you may not even recognize it. Hopefully this is helping you to see it if it doesn't feel that pronounced for you. But you've been going through this process of deconstructing your relationship to the things that existed in the world. And you need this because this kind of renewal is what will open you up to receive the things that God has planned for you. The renewal that is on its way to you is a transformational work. This renewal is going to open you up to opportunities that you had only imagined, some that are bigger than what you have ever asked for. And in order for you to be able to receive that, you had to be able to let go of the hurt, the disappointment, and the patterns of behavior that have held you back. Now, for many of you, what this looked like is you hiding. I always describe my personal experience as standing on as if I'm at the stage, because that's where I know I want to and desire and deserve to be, right? But I'm peeking out from behind the curtain, right? Giving you a little bit more of who I am, just a little bit, just to a place of comfort. And what this renewal has done is it has said, no longer will you hold on to these things, these pieces that have allowed you to feel comfortable hiding. You're being pushed out into the center of whatever platform it is that you have desired to be on, that were already created as a part of your path and journey here. And the thing that is shifted for you is the energy that you have, spirit dwelling within you, the fire that you have within is pulling you now to that place. So you're not just wrestling in your mind about whether or not it's time for you. You're now feeling that soul pull that's saying, we must do this and it must happen now because there are people waiting on the other side. This morning, God gave me this beautiful download, and I can't go into it all here now, but if you check back, through my social media, I will share wherever it is that I place it. It may end up on Patreon, but it was a beautiful download about what is happening in our lives as we're walking through this time. And our stories, our experiences, our life is literally the thing that is waking other people up from their slumber. It was absolutely beautiful. And that's renewal, right? So having someone who has the opportunity to witness what your journey is, to see the way God has been moving in your life, what God has been transforming for you, is opening the door for them to believe as well. And this is a really hard time for so many people, if you think about it, because there is so much happening in the world that feels like we're moving backwards. And at the very same time, we're seeing technology and all of these things moving rapid fire in a direction of transformation and change. And so we're trying to, under normal circumstances, we would just be trying to steady ourselves in the midst of the kind of rapid change that's happening. But on top of it, we're now untethered from the systems and processes, right? So we are seeing the world really as this separate entity from us. And that is important because we were never supposed to be seeing ourselves as plugged into it in the way that we've been. You've heard me say before the word matrix, right? This is about us separating ourselves from the matrix, which is the most important thing for us in this moment. It means freedom, and it means standing in our own true, genuine authority. It means being in and of who we really are, that connection, as opposed to being in the world and of the world. That's not our journey. But at the same time, in our humanness, we're watching the systems and things that we have entrusted to be the thing that was safety and security to us. We're watching them fall apart. And for those of you who watch the podcast all the time, listen to the Divine Guidance episodes, you already know that I've been saying that this is coming for the last 2 years. So we're experiencing all of this transformation within us and in our immediate space, the things that we are most closely connected to, and we're seeing it in the world around us. And there's no question that it would make you feel uncertain. But let me tell you this. The certainty is on its way when you place it in the one who will never fail. Like, we have to shift our minds to being in alignment with God in the way that we know we were always meant to really feel and know and trust that God is dwelling within us. You have to be ready to let go of the things that you have been told that usurp the truth that God is delivering to you. It is time for you to hear and know. It is time for you to be. It is time for you to own your experience. You must come out of the clouds of doubt and trust what you know to be so. The world has done its job to create a backdrop for you to become who you are today. And now that you are in this moment, this renewal, this refreshing, you are going to see things differently. And seeing it differently is important because this is the way that you will be able to determine what truly is aligned with the light, what was aligned with source, with God, with the divine, from what has been manufactured to keep you in the matrix. So a couple things that God said specifically around renewal. One is that there is a spirit renewal. And this is about you reconnecting to spirit. So really what I was just describing, your relationship with God, with that which is greater than you, that relationship is renewed. And what that might look like to you is that you're starting to experience the connectivity in a way that feels really different. Excuse me. The second thing is the soul renewal. And that is all about your belief system. It's remembering who you truly are. And for many of you, you are going to experience that in a way that feels uncomfortable because you've been wrestling with this, who am I really at a soul level? And you've been seeing the way that you operate or present yourself in the world as the thing that's right. And no one can do the reconciliation between those two things but you. So it is for you to decide that this opportunity for the soul renewal is something that you're going to grab hold of. I can tell you, especially for those of you who deeply desire that feeling of safety and security. I'm thinking of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? It's like right at the bottom, that second row for us. We want so deeply to feel secure. And we've been taught that security are in things that are external from us, but they are not. Real security comes from your relationship with God, with the divine, and from knowing who the heck you are. It is ground into your identity. And so when you're allowing this renewal of soul to happen, it is about you grounding yourself in the truth of who you know yourself to be. And that identity is what God has shared with you. It's clear in your purpose. And it's aligned as you begin to live your life in accordance to it. And that is what creates real safety and security. It is what cannot be taken away from you because it's not somehow embedded in some external system. You have been watching the systems be demolished before you. And that is with intention, so that you understand that you cannot cling to those things because they are not your security. The last part of the renewal is renewal of self. And this is about us seeing ourselves, our human selves in truth. One of the hardest parts, I believe, of being human is to, show up and do all of the things that you believe are the right things to do, right? And then still feel like something it's not enough. And then you do the introspective work, and quite honestly, you start to see things about yourself that don't align or that don't feel genuine. Renewal of yourself is about you truly showing up as one version of self, not making all of these multiple, personas and showing up in a performative way, doing things that are for the acceptance of others, looking for that external validation. This is about you getting to a place where you know who you are unequivocally and you cannot be shaken. So that renewal of self offers us truth. And for much of our lives, we've been taught to walk away from what we know to be true and to accept what we're told. And all of that is falling away. For those of you who have chosen to say yes, to walk in your light, to walk in your purpose, you won't have the option to hide your eyes and believe that these things around you are not so. You can't help but see what was always there, but was so beautifully masked by the world. It is for you to know what is true. And that starts through accepting the truth of yourself. One of the things that I've learned through my own healing journey and through the work that I do is how important it is to allow yourself to see yourself fully. I didn't say easy, I said important, because it is that. You need to be able to see yourself in order to be clear about who you are and the way that you want to show up in the world. And it's so easy in the way that things have been orchestrated for us to get comfortable in a version of ourselves that continues to morph and morph and morph until we're no longer recognizable. So this work to see ourselves and to see truth brings us back to the core of who we are and why we are here. It is transformative, and you will need it in order to be who you've been called to be in this time. People are going to come forward. They're going to grow. They're going to evolve. They're going to create the kind of relationship with spirit that you have because they see your example and because they hear your story, because they experience what you have gone through. So it's important for you to allow this renewal of self to happen so that you can share your authentic truth with others. And they will see themselves reflected in you because we are mirrors for one another. And you will show them that it's safe for them to become who it is that they were always intended to be, as they watch you become who you were always intended to be. The next theme for this month is for us to recognize that we are in a time where we want to say this cannot happen as we're looking at the experiences and things in the world. But what I need you to know is that they must. So every time you find yourself saying this cannot happen, you've got to pause and say to yourself, but why? Why is it happening? Why are we here in this moment? We have had as a collective, ample opportunity to respond in a way that's different to the things that have been happening in the world, and we haven't. And this in no way is intended to be a judgment of those who have been working to try and create change, who have been the voices and the catalysts. This is not saying that you've not done what your role is. As a collective, we have watched people suffer over and over again. We've watched circumstances, choices, and decisions, and many times we've met it with apathy. We cannot expect somehow a transformation of things without going to a point where we say no more. And it's unfortunate that it's taking so many things in order for us to get to this place. But if you look back, we've had ample opportunity. We've had so many moments and chances for us to choose differently. Several episodes ago, I shared that what we experienced in 2020 as we were going through COVID and all of the other things that we experienced, particularly the social unrest, we were called to see and to move in a way that created change. And we began to do that in a way that is miraculous. And then we became apathetic again. as a collective. And we're here now because of that apathy. We cannot expect things to be different just because we wish them to, without any commitment to being different ourselves. What we have is what we accept. And this is absolutely a call for us to do the introspective work to identify whether or not this is the kind of world that we want to experience for the rest of our days and want to hand to our children and the generations to come. I'm clear about my answer, and it's quite honestly why I'm doing the work that I do. And I hope that you will take the time to recognize that what you are being called to do, the things that come up as you sleep, the dreams that you have, the visions that God shows you, they are all for a purpose, and you are needed. If it were not your time, you would not be seeing those things. But we can't keep turning a blind eye and expect that somehow things are going to go away. It does not work like that. We have to be committed to change. And change will happen when people see and understand. And for them to see and understand, there have to be experiences that call us back to truth. God wants us to be reminded that even still they're in control, even still they're constantly victorious, even still. So we get to remember that things are happening to orchestrate the kind of change and transformation that we have called forward in the world. This does not mean that if you are praying for things to change and if you are doing great work in the world that you should change any of that. We need you because you are the trailblazers. We need people who are praying for transformation and change because we need that to be so. We need those of you who are using your voices to continue to do that. And we need people to stop behaving in such a way that you tear down those who you know are out trying to do the good work. I'm pausing because right now God is like it's not for this moment. So I will hopefully have the opportunity to come back to this sentiment around the way that we treat people. I'm just literally seeing the way that Jesus was treated during his journey, that he came to speak truth. And over again, he pointed out the things and he taught, turned over the tables. He called out the behavior that was not in alignment. And that while some people rallied, there were so many that tried to silence him. And inevitably, we know that the outcome was one that had to happen for our good, was the fulfillment of God's word. But it's the behavior of people in the middle of the journey that always breaks my heart. And we don't have to be like that in this time. We don't have to do that. We can choose to honor the people who we know are called to be catalysts and not tear them down. Because trust me, it's hard enough to get out there and speak the truth when you have it, not knowing how, and what people might say in response to that. It's hard. And in the meantime, we're spending time coming at one another instead of doing the hard work together to create change. The third theme that I have for November is the change of tastes. And so what God was showing me is that there is a stark shift in our tastes that we are going to experience. So I want you to imagine for a moment that we've had these situations, right, where someone they're talking about something. Maybe it's a great restaurant that they love and they're talking it up so much, right? And you go to the restaurant and you sit down and have your meal and you're like, that was underwhelming. Like, it was just okay, right? And sometimes the anticipation of the thing sets the bar so high. And perhaps the thing was actually really good, but it was because you had such high expectation, high hopes for it, that it was disappointing when you got there. Well, that's what you're going to be experiencing significantly and in rapid succession in life. Your tastes are going to be changing so quickly. So, what it was that you thought you liked, that you thought you enjoyed, you're going to find yourself being like, that doesn't satisfy me anymore. I no longer like to listen to those kinds of things. I no longer am drawn to that kind of stuff. You see, we're in a moment where so much around you is being orchestrated. And as you've been kind of like, if you can imagine yourself just dressed in gray, just walking along a pathway, following along with everyone else, and all of a sudden something taps you on your shoulder, and now the outfit that you're wearing is a bright, vivid color. Like you no longer find comfort in walking this same path every single day with all of these people wearing gray because you're like, oh no, I'm vibrant. Like this is not my thing. So your tastes are changing and you're going to experience this stark shift. Like, oh, I don't want to listen to this anymore. I don't want to watch this anymore. I'm not comfortable with all of the ways that things are being orchestrated and delivered to me. I actually want to go out and find the things that I'm interested in. You're waking up to see the way that the systems are feeding each other to give you the information it wants you to have that is perfectly designed for you, your type, your interest, and all of that that leads you down a path of disappointment. That is it. The way these systems feed into each other create a paradigm and a narrative for you, and you're breaking out of it. So when you notice that you're like, I was scrolling on whatever for the last 15 minutes and it used to be joyful, or it used to be something I could get through and gather some information, and now I'm really not feeling like it is additive. Pay attention. When you go to places and you surround yourself with certain people who have been a part of your circle for a while, and you leave feeling depleted, pay attention. When you show up to places, perhaps it's work, it's community, it's maybe some of the other things, the other things that you've been working on and building, and you no longer feel the fire for it, pay attention. Your tastes are going to change, and you will know that there are things that are happening because it is drawing your attention to what is here. Now, whether or not you regain your excitement or energy for those things, I don't know. That will be specific to what your particular journey is. What I am here to tell you is that you're getting signals and information that are asking you to be present and pay attention. The changing taste should signify to you that you are becoming a different version of yourself. And I want to speak to the level of exhaustion that so many of you have been experiencing. It has been heavy. Even when you rest, you find yourself wanting to have more rest after that. Why is this happening? Because you have been going through a massive shift. Your body is changing. Physically, your chemical nature is changing. The resonance with which you speak is changing. Your wisdom that has always been inside of you is bubbling up because it's asking you to begin speaking and sharing and creating, designing, doing all the things that you uniquely were created to do. It wants to be present. And so because this is coming up for you, and the other side of you, your humanness, is trying to continue to suppress it so you can show up in the way that you've always been in the world, you're having this battle going on within you. And then we would be remiss if we did not call out the fact that looking at the world falling apart, at the destruction that's happening all around us, that is really difficult to go through as well. Even though you understand that it is with purpose. And in all of this, we're experiencing grief of the self that we used to be. We're experiencing grief in the relationships that have to take pauses and some that have permanent separations. We're experiencing the shift of watching people who were on the bubble figure out whether they are choosing the light or not. We're watching people go through joblessness. We're looking at what's happening with our benefits, whether or not people are going to have access to food, if we are going to double, triple, and quadruple the amount of food insecurity that is already present while we build monuments to people and things. It makes absolutely no sense. We're watching so much happen. How could you not be exhausted? So, your work to nurture yourself in this time is incredibly important. You must have resilient practices. I think it was maybe August or September in the Divine Guidance, and I was talking about ensuring that you have practices for how you take care of yourself. It is important for you to be using them now. It matters because we have a race ahead of us. We've got work to do. And your ability to show up and do it in the way that only you can hinges on you taking care of yourself in a way that is different than what you've experienced in the past. You will not be able to do things that you've done before and think that they don't have an impact on your body because things have changed. What you need now to nurture yourself is different. So you might need more rest. You might need more water. You might need more exercise. You might need to shift your diet. And maybe 3 months from now, you'll need to shift it again. Whatever it is that your body is calling for, you need to give it. Whatever emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually you need to create that for yourself. We can use the word resilience, but I would tell you really simply, the vessel that you inhabit, it belongs to God and it is supposed to work at its optimum. And it cannot do that and be laden with all of these things of the world, the old patterns that were comfortable for you when what you were doing was aligned with who you saw yourself as in your humanness. Now that you are really owning who you are, who you have been divinely created to be, you're different. It's a beautiful thing. And it will take some time for you to create comfort in walking this life as this person that you've always been called to be. And you've got to learn the things that are important for you. One of the things that's coming up for this moment, and I feel like this is a question that is answering something that is sitting on your heart, is that you will need practices to release what you absorb as the world is going through its change. The word I'm seeing so clearly in this moment is grief. And it's really important for you to be able to witness and release grief and not to allow it to attach itself to you. We're going to see a lot of things cycle and change. And some of it will be really hard for us. It will be, equally hard as it is for us to grieve these old versions of self and things like that. And for those who are like, what do you mean? I'll give you an example. When I worked in corporate, there was this version of Anika that showed up a certain way. And this entrepreneurial business owner person that I am, divine guide, God's prophet, I am a very different person. And even though this is who I know God intended me to be, unequivocally, I'm so clear, I still love that version of who I have been. And so you grieve that version of self. It was familiar. And you find yourself in these moments where that old patterning wants to come back and you're choosing the who that you are now. That's grief. And we experience grief in relationships when we watch people around us who we know, like, we see their gifting, we understand who they are, and they still are not choosing themselves. They're not choosing the higher version of themselves yet, right? That's grief. And we can grieve the systems and the comfort and security and things I've already named across this episode. But we will have to be able to witness it and say, oh, this is grief. Is it mine? Yes, it is. And here's what I need to do with it. Is it from the collective? Because sometimes we are tapped into the energy, the weight, the heaviness that we feel of the collective. And when it is so, it is really clear that the next step is to ask God to remove it, to just take it from us. We are not to be laden. God says that we should take their yoke because their yoke is light, that they will do the heavy lifting for us. So when we get in these feelings of exhaustion and worry and fear and all of that, and we all do, we need the discipline of saying, is this mine? And if so, how am I going to work through it? Or this is not mine, and God, I'm asking you to take it. I am releasing it because I no longer absorb the energy, the negativity, the things from others, and then hold it within myself. We may filter because perhaps that is part of your role, but that doesn't mean you take it on. That's never God's ask of us. We are not to walk this life and be heavy laden. We are to walk light because we are light, because we are love, because we have been chosen, because we are favored and protected and divinely led and all of those things. We are to experience life more abundantly. And how can you experience the fullness of abundance if you are ladening yourself with heaviness that does not belong to you, or that is a part of your old narratives that you are choosing to release? So that is it for our divine guidance episode for this month. As I was sitting with God to ask what God desired for me to deliver today, God gave me a very specific excerpt to read from the book Healing is Required. So excited. And this particular excerpt comes from the second chapter of the book, which is all about the matrix. And I'm going to read to you what God called out to me. When the recognition of being out of alignment is allowed to permeate your awareness, it creates the conditions for internal unrest. This is what you call crisis. The truth is that the crisis started when you stopped experiencing the newness of life. It's likely that you didn't realize the limitations around you had become your jailer. It is because you didn't have the awareness of what true alignment feels like that you did not know that there was even an issue. Basically, you could not really experience it without contrasting what was possible. Think about the concept of knowing. Once you have the inkling that there is something else to be considered or to contrast, your mind begins to test and explore, right? We know the mind gets busy trying to make sense of things, right? The feeling of knowing creates new connections that challenge what you currently hold as the experience you are having. You can liken it to looking through a zoomed-in lens that appears to be looking down on a mouse in a small box. Imagine the lens begins to retract, and eventually you can see that there is a mouse in the center of a large maze. Both were true at the same time. The box and the maze existed. Looking at the zoomed-in lens gave you the impression that there could only be one reality. That mirrors the experience that you had before new information was provided. Having a clear perspective on the current experience contributes to the feeling of safety. Once we are unclear about existing conditions, insecurity begins to creep in. When you're open to possibilities, you typically hold the notion that the current situation is what you know it to be, but there is space in your mind for more. That significantly affects whether or not you begin to feel insecure. The feeling of security lessens when you know that there is a genuine state of being in alignment. It's safe to admit that the comfort you experienced before you knew alignment was possible, and it made you feel grounded and secured as defined by the world. We understand that there was a version of safety that we experienced before, but now that lens has gone back and we see more clearly and we understand that there is more here. This is really about us giving space to ourselves to say, I thought that what I knew, what I saw, what I experienced was all there was, but now I know there's more. And this is why, if we go back to the word, God says that we are not to lean on our own understanding. This is why. Because when we lean on our own understanding, we can see just the part that we're willing to see through our perspective, or just the part that we're able to make sense of in our minds. We can't imagine that there's something other than what we have seen physically. Yet, there is so much more beyond that. Think of any time that you thought a situation was so clearly one way, and then something happened or someone told you, oh no, that wasn't what happened. I didn't mean that. And then they share their whole perspective, and you're like, oh, it's okay for us to acknowledge that we thought we understood, and now we know there's more, because that is what life's journey is about. Pause for a moment to reflect. What does it feel like to experience security? How secure do you really feel? It's remarkable that one can even create a sense of security based on external factors. Think about that for a moment. Most of what we say makes us feel secure comes from outside of us. I know for me, until deepening the relationship that I have with God in this way, I don't think there was anything internally that really, truly made me feel safe. The current climate is very unstable. Consider the transient nature of things around you. Some considerations include your job, company, your home, societal unrest, pandemics, hunger, homelessness, and mental exhaustion. The swirl created by the inconsistency of conditions outside of you threatens to pull at you at any moment. Take another look. Is this what you have considered to be security? In fact, is it secure? No. In this experience, the pieces outside of you are not secure. Things do not satisfy the need for security. And there's so much more in the book around this topic, and how beautiful. Again, I didn't pick the excerpt. God told me what page to go to. But when I think about, what it speaks to and the moment that we're in the US, and I know that there are mirroring experiences that are happening around the world. There's so much that is changing outside of us. And this should be a signal for us to know that we cannot trust the things of the world, the things that are external. We cannot. Your faith and trust need to be in something greater than you. However you define it, it's what I call God, the divine source. It is that is how I define it. You need to have your definition and put your faith and trust there, because that is what will not fail. Sometimes it may take a moment for you to see whatever it is unfold, for you to understand the why that things happen. Sometimes it takes longer than a moment. But you will not misplace your trust if you put it there. Placing it in the world, we can see. One thing that I want to go back to in this moment really quickly is that in this changing of taste, you are going to witness other people going through that experience as well. And so much like the awakening that happened in the US after George Floyd's murder, we will see more and more moments like this where people are in shock and awe and disbelief that things are happening in a way that they like. I never knew this could happen here. I never knew that this was something I would experience in my lifetime. There's a lot of that we are going to experience in the change of tastes. So even there, you'll have your own experience, but even as you watch other people whose tastes begin to change. And it's important that we witness it with one another. For many of you, and what I just heard is, it will restore your belief in humanity, that there is a point and purpose for us to be a collective, because you've been feeling like there's no way that there will be a bridge between people, because we have such deep separation between all of us. But God is saying this change of taste will be a catalyst for people to come back together. So our work between now and then is to heal, so that as we have the opportunities to embrace one another, we can do it without prejudice, that we can do it without grudge, that we can do it without unforgiveness in our hearts. And perhaps part of our own experience is set so that we recognize how easy it is to fall victim to, or have a propensity to trust in things, to set our tastes in something in the world and then be disappointed and then change it, while other people have not ever experienced that level of disappointment. There's just work simply to be done to reconnect ourselves one to another. I hope you enjoyed the excerpt that I shared from my book, Healing is Required. Again, you can find it at healingisrequired.com. And also the link is on my website at anikaapple.com. I also wanted to share before I close the episode that my Double Apex Advisory, which is Anika Apple's Prophetic Edge X Factor, is the advisory services that I offer to support people in building their business centered in purpose, building their life centered in purpose, and deepening their connection to who they are spiritually. This grounding shifts absolutely everything. And if you'd like to learn more about Double Apex, you can find that on my website as well at anikaapple.com. I have 3 spaces left for clients that I'm taking on in 2025. And then we will reopen the opportunity to, connect with the advisory services at some point in Q1. But if it is something you're interested in, I encourage you now to grab a discovery call. You can book it right from my website so that you can learn more about what the advisory services can unlock for you. What I can tell you is it is a beautiful blend of the prophetic gifting that I have, the business experience, and my ability to see and know purpose. It is what God has gifted me to be able to see in others. And it creates a very unique experience and transformational results. And I've got 3 spots left this year that I will fill. And then we will be off to next year because, as you know, we're in November. We're in the home stretch, baby. 2025 is wrapping down quickly. All right. And for those of you in the Atlanta area, we do have a book signing coming up on the 13th of November. And if you'd like information about that, make sure you go to healingisrequired.com and you'll see the information there. And we are sharing out all of the details with those who are on our Book Insiders community. And next week on Tuesday, we have a virtual launch party. So I'm so excited. Make sure you check back here on YouTube and Facebook, as well as on my website for all the information on the launch party. So thank you for joining us for this month's episode of Divine Guidance. I'm looking forward to hearing your feedback. As always, please make sure that you drop your comments in the chat as you're listening to the replay. And if you have any questions or information that you are looking for about the divine guidance, you can reach me at connect@anikaapple.com. I wish you peace and blessings and look forward to seeing you on next week's launch party and then through the episodes of the Anika Apple podcast the rest of this month. Peace and blessings.